Welcome to the deep dive. You shared a really fascinating piece of text with us today. It's just a single sentence from a lifestyle article.
Yeah, just one sentence, but man, it is doing a lot of work.
Right. It promises to find the exact houseplant your zodiac sign needs to purify your home this June. It's a lot to promise.
It really is. I mean, on the surface, it reads like, standard lifestyle fluff.
Yeah.
But beneath that, it's doing an immense amount of cultural heavy lifting.
Exactly. And so our mission today for this deep dive is to answer one central question, really. Like, why are we suddenly asking the cosmos to decorate our windowsills?
It's a great question because it intersects astrology, botany, and, this very modern anxiety we all have surrounding our domestic spaces.
Yeah, our homes. And the source material you sent us, it's a brief excerpt from a piece titled Celestial Greenery, June Zodiac Plants for Purifying Your Home.
That's the one.
And the core thesis, the absolute hook of this text, is this super potent guarantee. It offers, quote, the specific houseplant your sign needs to purify your living space this June.
Which is just a brilliant piece of framing, honestly. Because we're looking at a fundamental shift in how we assign value to the natural world right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with that title, Celestial Greenery. I mean, the juxtaposition alone is striking, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We're taking the infinite, untouchable cosmos, like the stars, the planets, the entire zodiac, and we're just forcefully pairing it with, dirt and roots and leaves.
Yeah, literally pulling the stars down into the soil.
Right. Why are we combining the stars with the soil? To me, it feels like we're treating nature the way we treat like a custom algorithmic playlist on a music app.
Oh, that's a really good analogy.
You know that feeling when the app generates a highly specific playlist for you, and you look at it and you think, wow, the machine really understands my soul.
Yes, exactly. That feeling of being seen by the algorithm.
Right. And it seems like we're applying that exact same expectation to, like, a fern.
We really are.
We're seeking our own identity, our own specialness, reflected back to us, not just by technology anymore, but by the natural world. But why do we crave this external validation from the stars for something as earthly as plant shopping?
Well, what's fascinating here is the psychological mechanism behind that craving.
Yeah.
Because human beings are, we're inherently pattern-seeking creatures.
Oh, sure. Always trying to make sense of things.
Exactly. Throughout history, we've always looked at the macrocosm, like the celestial bodies, the shifting constellations, to manage our relationship with the Earth.
Right, like ancient agricultural almanacs.
Precisely. They were essentially written in the sky. Humans tracked the stars to know exactly when to plant seeds or when to expect a frost, how to survive the changing seasons.
Because it was literally a matter of life and death back then.
Yes, exactly. It's an instinct that's deeply, deeply wired into our collective memory.
So you're saying this modern text, the Celestial Greenery article, is tapping into that ancient survival instinct, but like repackaging it for a studio apartment?
That is the crucial pivot right there. We aren't looking at the stars to figure out how to feed a village anymore.
Right. We just want to know if a pothos will survive in the bathroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead, this text suggests we look to the stars to soothe a very modern, highly individualized kind of existential dread, I guess you could call it.
Existential dread. Wow.
Yeah, by connecting the vast, unpredictable macrocosm of the zodiac with the manageable microcosm of a potted houseplant. The text offers the reader a profound sense of control.
Oh, I see. Because you can't control the chaos of the actual universe.
You can't, but you can synthesize it down into a neat, green, living entity and just, place it in the corner of your bedroom.
That domestication of the universe feels almost, almost narcissistic, though.
Oh, it's intensely self-centric.
Yeah. Like we're taking the infinite expanse of space and making it entirely about my living room decor.
It is, but it also satisfies a very deep-seated psychological need for orientation. When the source tells you, hey, this plant is specifically for your sign, it disrupts the reality of mass consumerism.
Because you aren't just a random shopper anymore.
Right. You're just picking up a mass-cultivated plant that was grown in some warehouse with a million others. The text elevates you to this unique cosmic entity.
Suggesting your environment should reflect that special alignment.
Exactly. The biological organism is basically transformed into a talisman of your personal identity.
Which fundamentally changes the relationship between the buyer and the plant, right? It turns the plant into a mirror.
It really does.
You're no longer just engaging in the messy, tangible chore of remembering to water something so it doesn't turn brown. Tending to the foliage becomes an act of tending to your own astrological well-being.
You're watering your soul, essentially.
Right. It elevates a basic domestic chore into an act of profound self-care.
And by making the plant an active participant in your psychological landscape like that, the text subtly prepares you for the intended result of this pairing.
Which is explicitly laid out in that promise to, quote, purify your living space.
Yes, the purification aspect is key.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because I have to push back a little bit here. Isn't purify just like a predatory marketing buzzword at this point?
Well, it certainly can be.
Right, because the text promises the specific houseplant your sign needs to purify your living space. To me, that sounds like they're selling a $20 succulent by making people feel like their homes are somehow contaminated.
It does play on that fear, absolutely.
Like, are we talking about literal biological purification here? I mean, we know there are those famous NASA studies from the 1980s.
Oh, right, the ones about filtering airborne toxins.
Exactly, showing that certain houseplants can filter out things like formaldehyde. But the way this text blurs the lines between interior design, physical health, and like spiritual wellness, it feels incredibly deliberate.
It is entirely deliberate.
It reads less like an air filter recommendation and more like they're selling a metaphysical bundle of sage, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the brilliance of the text, and yes, the marketing genius of it, is that it operates on both frequencies simultaneously.
It doesn't force you to choose one or the other.
Exactly. It doesn't force the reader to distinguish between the biological and the metaphysical. And this is a direct response to how the concept of the living space has drastically mutated over the past several years.
Oh, you mean the collapse of the boundary between our public lives and our private sanctuaries?
Precisely. Since so many of us started working from home, the house isn't just a place to sleep anymore.
It's everything. It's the office, the gym, the entertainment center.
And the refuge.
Yes.
Because the outside world feels increasingly chaotic and overwhelming and just saturated with this constant stream of digital noise and global crises.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is. So the desire to purify the home reflects a broad, very real societal anxiety regarding boundary maintenance. In psychology, when our internal emotional boundaries feel constantly violated by external stress, we tend to hyperfixate on our physical boundaries.
So the home has to be the fortress. It has to be this hermetically sealed bubble of wellness.
A perfectly curated safe haven. So when the text offers a plant to purify that space, it speaks directly to that modern anxiety of contamination.
That makes so much sense.
It traces a really fascinating semantic drift, actually. In the 1980s NASA era you mentioned, a toxin was a literal chemical compound in the air.
Right. Actual pollution.
But today, in the modern wellness space, a toxin is just as likely to refer to a bad mood, or a stressful email, or residual digital burnout.
Oh, wow. Yeah, totally. So the text positions the houseplant as basically a biological and spiritual bouncer for your living room.
A spiritual bouncer, I love that. Charged with keeping the bad vibes out.
Which is a lot of pressure to put on a fern, let's be honest.
It's a heavy burden for a plant.
It is. But looking at the exact phrasing you sent us, it frames this not as a luxury, but as an absolute necessity. It says, the specific houseplant your sign needs to purify your living space.
Yes. Needs, not wants.
It doesn't say might enjoy or could look nice. It uses the word needs.
And that vocabulary elevates the purchase from a simple design choice to a requirement for harmony. The implication is severe, really.
Yeah, it implies that if your space is not actively purified by this specific celestial greenery, your environment is out of balance.
Exactly. It implies a state of inherent corruption that can only be fixed through this exact cosmic prescription.
Oh, man. It plays heavily on that pervasive feeling that we're always just one missing purchase away from inner peace.
Oh, definitely. The wellness industry thrives on that.
If I can just buy the right thing, my life will finally be perfectly calibrated. Which brings us to the constraints the text places on this promise, right? Because it doesn't just offer a generalized, lifelong solution for a purified home, it's incredibly restrictive.
Very restrictive. The parameters are engineered to force immediate action. The text is the specific houseplant your sign needs this June.
Right, so what does this all mean? Why the strict deadline?
It's creating an expiration date on the wellness.
Exactly. It treats plant care not as a static hobby, but like a seasonal wardrobe update dictated entirely by astrological shifts. You don't just buy a winter coat, you buy a June Gemini fern.
Right.
I question the urgency here. Why does this June matter so much? Because if I don't get the specific plant from my sign right now, the text implies I'm spiritually vulnerable for the next 30 days.
Yeah, you're exposed.
It feels like an artificial timeline designed entirely to bypass our critical thinking.
I think this raises an important question about how we consume wellness and lifestyle advice and the underlying mechanics of decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. Yeah, say more about that.
Well, we exist in an era of unprecedented choice overload, right? If you were to simply research, best houseplant for an apartment, you'd be subjected to millions of conflicting articles.
Oh, yeah, the rabbit hole of the internet.
You'd have to navigate debates about soil pH and sunlight direction, toxicity to pets, watering schedules.
Well, it's too much. The cognitive load required to make a simple purchase is just exhausting.
Exactly. By the end of a long day, the last thing anyone wants to do is become an amateur botanist just to buy something green for their desk.
It really is. I mean, you just want a nice plant.
So the psychological comfort of hyper-personalization is that it entirely removes that cognitive load. It functions as a heuristic shortcut.
Because it just tells you what to do.
Right. In a landscape where you have far too many choices, being told exactly what your specific sign needs right now is incredibly soothing.
It really is.
The text cuts through the noise and presents itself as a bespoke authority. It essentially says, hey, stop researching, stop worrying. The universe has already done the math for you for this exact moment in time.
It's the ultimate relief of surrendering to an authority. Even if that authority is a weird hybrid of an astrological chart and a gardening blog.
Exactly. You don't have to bear the burden of choice anymore.
And anchoring it to this June creates this localized, manageable event. It turns the act of acquiring the plant into a timely, actionable task.
Which is very satisfying for our brains.
Right. And by aligning the recommendation with the rhythm of the calendar, it suggests that our spiritual and environmental needs are not static. It reinforces the idea that as the planets move, our requirements for harmony shift along with them.
Yeah, and looking at it from a commercial standpoint, that is a brilliant, albeit exhausting mechanism.
Oh, exhausting is the right word.
It implies that wellness isn't a destination you can actually arrive at, It's a constantly moving target.
If your living space was perfectly calibrated and purified for May, well, too bad the cosmic weather has changed. Now you need a completely different energetic filter for June.
Precisely. It creates a recurring, never-ending loop of consumer engagement with your own living space.
Wow. It also taps into a very deep human desire for renewal, though, doesn't it?
It does. Every turn of the calendar offers a blank slate. If May was an exceptionally stressful month, this June provides a prescribed, cosmically sanctioned method to physically wipe the slate clean.
A fresh start delivered right to your windowsill.
The specificity of the month isn't just a marketing deadline. It's the promise of a fresh start, materialized in the form of a plant.
It's wild. When you brought this text to our attention, it seemed like a fun, quirky little trend. But looking back at everything we've unpacked today, it's staggering how much cultural weight is condensed into that single sentence.
It really is. Even a brief mention of celestial greenery tailored for this June acts as this massive cultural barometer,
revealing profound insights into who we are right now.
It illustrates how deeply we desire to connect with something larger than ourselves, like the vastness of the cosmos. But how we insist on doing it entirely on our own terms, scaled down to fit within our own living rooms.
Yes. It highlights our desperate attempt to personalize our environments, turning our homes into these heavily fortified, carefully curated sanctuaries against the unpredictability of the outside world.
Which is a very natural response to the world right now.
It is, and perhaps most tellingly, it exposes our vulnerability to hyper-specific, timely solutions. Like we are so eager to find something that promises to just fix it all for us.
Something that removes the exhausting burden of constant choice.
Exactly. So the true appeal of the excerpt you shared isn't found in the practical, biological act of buying a fern or a pothos or a snake plant.
No, not at all. The appeal is the seductive promise of a harmonious, cosmically aligned life.
It sells the idea that true balance isn't something you have to painstakingly build from scratch through trial and error.
Right, it's something you can simply align with, starting right in your own living space, just by following the map of the stars.
It bridges the ethereal and the earthly in a way that feels highly actionable and deeply personal. It's basically the ultimate shortcut to feeling grounded.
You just let the stars pick the roots.
Let the stars pick the roots. I love that. So as we wrap up today's deep dive into the source material you shared with us, we want to leave you with something to mull over. We've thoroughly examined the urgency of this June, and how incredibly comforting it is to surrender to a cosmic matchmaking service for your houseplants.
It really does remove the friction of choice and offers a tangible sense of control.
It does, but think about the broader implications of that timeline. If your specific botanical needs, your strict requirements for a purified space, are dictated by your zodiac sign entirely and exclusively for this June,
Right.
what happens when the calendar inevitably turns to July?
That's the catch, isn't it? It highlights the inherent paradox of seasonal wellness. The solution is, by definition, temporary.
Do our environmental and spiritual needs fundamentally shift the moment the celestial calendar changes? Does the safe, purified sanctuary you built in June suddenly become energetically obsolete in July?
It's an exhausting thought.
And if that is the case, what does that constant, unyielding need to update your living space say about our search for inner peace? Are we actually finding harmony in these cosmic alignments, or are we just caught in a recurring loop?
Just wandering through the massive garden center of modern life.
Wandering forever, searching for the next tag that tells us we're doing it right, something to think about the next time you water your plants.